Hello and welcome to a Friday edition of the Osceola Seminole Sidelines. There's probably going to be a fast Friday edition. We only got two guests today. Kurt Weiler's joining us. He is going to be heading down to practice or covering baseball, one of the two. As soon as we're done with this, I'm not sure which of the two you got today. Both. All right.
Both.
He's got post-football practice and then got a little FSU versus Virginia Tech baseball action. And then we'll have Nick on in a taped a live version of our recruiting. Nick's actually down at practice right now, seeing who's at practice, which of the recruits. But we're going to talk a little bit about the commitment of Sean Johnson and where we think Landon Duckworth is going, and we kind of break down Fish's. He ranked the commitments, 9 commitments. So Nick and I sat down and said where we agree with Fish and where we disagree with Fish. So there's a little bit of a little listicle thing that we do. So, all right, Kurt, a lot going on. Football's coming into basically the last week of spring practice. We're going to practice number 12 today. We'll have 3 next week. But Florida State got in what must have been a very intense physical practice yesterday. It's about as much as I've heard Mike Norvell talk about intensity, talk about physicality, and talk about hustle coming out of a practice ever, to be honest with you. But what were some of your takeaways from Thursday's practice? You were there at the press conference and obviously got to hear Mike and the kids speak.
Yeah, he definitely he felt like really the last 2 non-scrimmage practices on Tuesday and last Thursday. He really felt like challenged the team, like I'm not seeing enough of the edge I need to see. I'm not seeing enough of the leaving it all on the field that I need to see, the consistent execution that I need to see, the consistency that I need to see, and at least the intensity. I can't speak so much to the other parts, but it sounds like the intensity was very much brought, and the team responded to that challenge last night at practice on the first day of their only back-to-back of spring. But I think you look at last year's team. That was one of the issues, no doubt. Like that, there were teams where they were more talented than who had a physical edge over them, and that really shouldn't ever happen. That feels like
Florida State. You're right.
No, exactly. You shouldn't be getting out physical by Duke or fill in the blank, any number of almost every game on the schedule. But it seems like they're responding to that. It feels like the change of coordinators has helped with that. Both Gus and Tony have come in really talking about the need for that, and I feel like they've responded to that in a major way.
Well, yeah, we talked a lot about it during the season last year. We just felt like the voices were not being heard, and you hate to see this here. As somebody that spent time in the profession, and the goal, if you're a coach, at least back in the day, was to be somewhere as long as you could. You look for stability in an unstable profession, really. And but yeah, we said that we thought that was part of it last year. They were just not getting through, and certainly I think the new voices have helped. Listen, I don't always pay attention to Mike's press conferences in season outside of his post game press conference and his Monday night press conference, but I don't think I've ever heard Mike talk as much about physicality and effort and toughness as he has this spring anyway. So I do think, and we talked about it Wednesday, and I think you were on that part of it. Bob may have been. But I think that certainly when they sat down as a new staff and started going through the offensive and defensive tape, certainly these new assistant coaches have, they saw that there was a lack of toughness, a lack of physicality, and they're emphasizing that. And I kind of like what they're doing. Coming back today, back-to-back practices. It's the only second time they've done it all spring. And the thing I like about this is they're coming back 2 full padded practices back-to-back, which is not what happened the first week where they went from shells to full pads in those back-to-back practices. And listen, I think it stresses the team. I think, they're not used to going back-to-back. they don't do it a lot in the spring. So, one of the things that Mike said that kind of it caught my attention. I want this to be a practice they will remember, talking about
Yep.
today's practice, which is supposed to be a shorter practice that really features goal line, red zone. And I'm sure they'll do a little open field stuff, but sounds like it's probably going to be about an hour and a half practice where they really get after it. But I don't think I've ever heard Mike use those terms. I mean, that's old school. Back in my day, the coach said, "We're going to go out there and kick your ass today," and I think that's what Mike was saying. And so it's interesting to me that because I've never heard him talk about. He talked about the fact that he saw fight and determination on Thursday, which is something that I think we want to. And he actually mentioned, somebody asked him if anybody stood out. I kind of chuckled when he said Squirrel White. Squirrel
Well,
White.
he highlighted a Squirrel White today. Apparently, Squirrel, who's like, I think 5'10", 170, far from, definitely among the smaller players in the team, apparently had a big time block on the perimeter. I don't know if he leveled someone or just like what, but hey, that's another thing they were missing last year. No, it feels like, it almost feels like from how he talked about it, they were almost maybe bordering on going into too chippy. Last night, I think he talked about kind of some freshmen who are still getting acclimated to like what they do at practice, of maybe taking it too far and losing control of their emotions, at least maybe a little bit. But at the same time, I think he also kind of likes seeing that after kind of having to get it out of guys the last couple practices before. I think he appreciated the change.
Well, I think you're the person to ask him about the chippiness in the media and in the press conference. And, he did answer that question. It was actually one of his longer answers. And at the end of it, and I believe I'm talking about, I think I've got this right. I think towards the end of his answer to that question, did it get chippy? And, was that a good thing or a bad thing? And he basically ended as, that's the way it should be. I think he wants them to be composed. Obviously, I think there was that in there, and we heard that reference by either McCray or Pittman post when the players came in and talked. But I want to fill FSU football. That is the demand. That is the expectation. When he was talking about he wants people to fill FSU football, that was from a physical standpoint. So he is really stressing this to these kids, and I don't think I've ever seen him talk like this before. And so I wonder where was this Mike Norvell week 3 last year is what I want to know.
I think he might have been a bit shell shocked, and with the with the appreciation of hindsight now, hey, drastic times call for drastic measures, and this has felt like a spring of an offseason of drastic measures with the coaching changes, the personnel changes, how he's talk changes. It's funny, he is, now that we're not out there, I feel like he says more about the practices than when we were out there watching them. I feel like when we were out there watching them, they're often more vague, nondescript opening statements, and now he's much more descriptive about how this practice went.
Yeah, I think at times he has been, and I wish he'd be a little bit more forthcoming. Like, I don't think it's, we live in an era where, listen, these kids are getting paid, some of them very handsomely. If Darrell Jackson has a great practice, I wish he'd come in and tell us about that. If he has a bad one, he's point blank ask about specific. I wish he'd be a little, I don't think he's got to knock a kid, but I think he can say, hey, we need a little bit more. And if he wants to tie it to a position group, but yeah, I think he has been more forthcoming. And, this reminds me, Kurt, a little bit of the intensity level that Mike had when he took over the program. That was one of his more tough guy press conferences, if that's what you want to call it. But yeah, certainly I don't think I've ever heard him talk about physicality. And it certainly sounds like the staff as a whole knows that this team needs to be much tougher than it was last year. And, I want this to be a practice they will remember. I mean, if I'm a player, I know what's fixing to happen. I know we're gonna buckle it up and we're gonna get after it. We're gonna see who's the tougher man over a period of plays and see who wins out. So I was happy to hear that. Another thing I think everybody would have been happy to hear is he talked about Micah Pettis, Gunnar Hansen, Jaden Early, and Richie Leonard practicing yesterday. And so if you go back to what we were talking about earlier in the week, now Mike's mentioned it, we can talk about it. Those guys were held out of the scrimmage on
We knew
Saturday.
some of those.
Yeah.
But we knew a few of them. We knew Gunner was going to be
Yeah,
limited. We knew Jalen Early was going to be limited, and I think it was safe to assume Richie Leonard might be. But
yeah.
it's a big deal that those guys get at least a couple practices to kind of put it out on the field before spring ends next Saturday.
Yeah, and I think that's listen, I know those guys, particularly Pettis and Hanson and Leonard, have thousands of snaps in their career, so I'm not as concerned. But I do think it's good that it is a new offense, it is a new offensive line. I think it's good that they get as much work as they can together. I was not overly concerned about them missing the scrimmage last Saturday. Now I'm hoping Kurt will get an invite to the scrimmage next Saturday so he can
Don't
watch
count on it.
most of the starting offensive line play and see what this offense looks like. But listen, I think it's got to be a major difference with those guys in there, particularly Pettis and Hanson and Leonard, who have played a tremendous amount of football. I think it's important for Jalen to get back on the field just because he's fighting for a position. I mean, he's fighting Leonard for there's a in our projections, we got one guard position that's open for battle, and I think it could be two based off what we saw in the scrimmage. But I think it's important for Early to get back so he can get into the battle. But he did talk about some of the. I think he mentioned Otto after he mentioned some guys that were showing leadership on the offensive line. What was your take on what he said about the offensive line and his post practice comments?
Yeah, I think I don't remember actually him talking specifically about leaders, but I think the
I'm
big
sorry,
takeaway.
that was Pittman. That was Pittman.
Yeah, but it definitely I think it's a big deal. I mean, he talked about kind of it's great that they've been out, whether they came into spring with something or picked up something during spring. They've been able to kind of work on the film room, obviously, but like that's not going to ever be the same as those real life reps. And you're right. I mean, the offensive line, if we were to get to see the last scrimmage, and unfortunately I haven't heard anything that makes me think we will, but if we were to, I mean, it sounds like the receiver room's in a better spot and the offensive line room's in a better spot. It might be a more true representation of where they are coming out of spring than what we saw. But you could also make the case it was intentional that we saw the scrimmage we did.
Well, listen, I've been listening to Mike talk for 5 years, and he's a speak it into existence guy, and I'm just learning from him and trying to speak it into existence. Want to let him know that we would like to be at the scrimmage, and we'll be on our best behavior as always. So we'll see if it makes it from this microphone to his ears. But anyway, that would be great. But we got to talk to a couple of players after practice on Thursday, and I was really impressed with him, what he did in the scrimmage last Saturday, and that's Deontay McCray. And I think I'm more impressed with him now after that press conference. I mean, that is one sharp kid. I mean, I would trot him out in front of the media every chance I got if I'm Florida State. One of my notes is I got more insight from what he said than what Mike said.
That happens a decent amount.
Yeah.
That happens a decent amount, you could say. He is. I've always been impressed. I mean, I talked to him. He came and visited back in December. Literally the morning after the previous night, he had played in the Boca Raton Bowl with Western Kentucky, and the next afternoon, he was on Florida State campus for a visit. And he impressed me then, and a couple times we've talked to him since. Kind of once he arrived. And then yesterday, he is an impressive guy on the field and an impressive interview too, for sure. Very well spoken. You wonder how many media opportunities he had at Western Kentucky, or if he's just kind of a natural. But hey, I mean, it's
that was part of my reaction. Like, this kid's really, really good.
Yeah.
And listen, I was impressed with what he had to say and how he said it. He's obviously this scheme is new to him, but he was very positive about the flexibility that this scheme has. But the one thing that he said was consistent is particularly the defensive ends. They're going to let us get after the quarterback. Great scheme. Let us get after it. He said he's lining up an end, nose, tackle, and jack. And listen, he said with this defense, they just want us to run hard and play fast. And he says, the one thing that stands out to him about Terrence Knighton is he's been where we want to go. And it's funny, Coach Gladden, for years when we were growing up, used to tell John, who's his son and one of my best friends, he'd give us advice and say, "Man, I'm just trying. You should listen to an old guy. I've been where you're trying to go." He'd say the same thing. So Terrence Knighton stealing something from Coach Gladden's playbook. But yeah, it was great to hear Deontay talk about that. You know, he mentioned James Williams being the guy that is the teacher of the defensive line, and then he mentioned that Daryl Jackson is unequivocally the leader of the defensive line, but he's also a guy that they hold accountable. So we're starting to see some position groups hold each other accountable, which we did not see last year. So, what was your take on what Deontay had to say? And obviously, you saw him in the scrimmage too. But I was really impressed with what the kid said.
Yeah, he definitely, I thought, was saying a lot of the right things. I think, he talked about the physicality of this spring, talked about, the importance of what? 4 practices left. You got to maximize every play you get over those final 4 practices, because, it's the last time in a proper practice setting until preseason camp rolls around. Obviously, they do player-led stuff over the summer. They do more lifting and stuff, but it definitely feels like the schedule changes a bit once they get through next Saturday and kind of wrap up with that scrimmage. So, yeah.
Yeah, somebody asked him if he had gotten the Castellanos, and actually we did see him get the Castellanos in
Yes.
the scrimmage we were at, and so he just kind of laughed and said, "Yeah, of course, I've gotten all 3 quarterbacks." So he doesn't care who's lining up at quarterback; he's going head hunting, and that was good to hear. But he also talked about the fact that Terrence Knighton, listen, he's bigger on my takeaway, he's bigger on correction than he is praise, but he will communicate whether it's good or bad. But he said, he's kind of a little bit more. It's the second player that said he's leans toward correction over praise, and I've heard Terrence say, "Listen, until they do it on the field, they don't get much praise." So they got to prove themselves first.
What did Terrence say back at the coaches' luncheon? We asked about any freshman impressing, any new guys impressing you, and he said something to the effect of "I won't praise a freshman until I see them do it, on the field." That was his he very much seems like a prove it guy, and then once you prove it to him, like James Williams did at Nebraska, that's why he talked about James coming here. He kind of I can ask more of you now. I can have higher expectations on you because you've shown me personally you can do it, but everyone else probably still has to do that. And I don't even know truthfully if that's do it in a game or if that's do it in practice. I wonder if you guys kind of.
Yeah, my takeaway from what he says, you got to do it in a game first.
He may not be talking about the freshman much until August or September.
Right. Well, hey, Randy Pittman talked about, so he talked for a while on Thursday, and he talked about a couple of freshman defensive linemen. He was asked who has helped make him better, and his answer was Amari Williams and the Desire twins have made him better that way. And he said the Desire twins are physical, which, listen, I was talking to somebody last night about this, that the fact that Mandrell stood out in the first scrimmage. I said either that's great because he's going to be a really good freshman, or it means there's issues on the other side of the line. I said we'll figure it out because you don't see a lot of true freshman defensive line, especially early enrollees. But we heard their names again. Now this is coming from players as opposed to coaches. But Randy mentioned that the guys were ready today. Obviously, they took Mike's frustration and the coaching staff's frustration with Tuesday's practice to heart, and said, listen, it was a really physical practice on Thursday that he felt like everybody was ready for. He said he was pleased with where the offense was going 12 days through spring. So what were your main takeaways from what Randy Pittman had to say?
Yeah, it was nice to talk to him. I think we requested him after his performance in that scrimmage, where he made an impact in quite a few ways. I know he said he wants to be a yak tight end, and I think he had a play. He had a play in that scrimmage where I think he kind of ran someone over and picked up some yards. And then he also had a trick play in that scrimmage where he got open downfield and had a long touchdown. And so he is a guy who I think they can use in a lot of different ways. And I think he's more of a receiving tight end, but I think he's shown he could be a capable blocker as well. He's continued to add weight. Frankly, I don't think I would have put 2 and 2 together, but it was in Bob's story he wrote today about the tight end room and Randy. He's listed at very similar height and weight to what Jaheim Bell was 2 years ago.
Yep.
I wouldn't have thought that's the case, but that shows he may be more of a versatile do-it-all tight end than maybe I thought he could be.
Yeah, I think he's going to be much stronger on the pass catching part of it. Hopefully, they can get him out in space up on the second level and be an effective blocker there. I do worry about his inline blocking ability and can he go up against a 240-pound, 250-pound end and hold up. But yeah, listen, they pulled. I've watched some clips of him where they pulled him at UCF as a lead blocker. Up on the second level, he was more than effective. So we'll see what happens there. They asked him about Castellanos, what he liked most about Tommy Castellanos, and he gave a simple answer, like how he extends plays, and we saw evidence of that in the scrimmage. Y'all asked him about who were the vocal leaders. This one was funny to me a little bit. He mentioned Castellanos, Roydell Williams himself, and T.J. Ferguson. And one, I said A.J., but I'm not sure who A.J. is. But so one of those names caught me as interesting that T.J. Ferguson was a vocal leader. That one caught me off guard. But he said A.J., and maybe I missed. That's got to be a nickname for somebody. But so he mentioned those five guys. And then really the thing that he said that really caught my attention the most is you guys ask him what was the difference between Malzahn at UCF and Malzahn at FSU. And I'm going to paraphrase what Randy said. He has more of an edge. He is at a new place, trying to earn the respect of the guys. And so I think what he's, and that's kind of that's not exactly what he said, but it's kind of what he said almost to a T. And I've been wondering about that for the players that came from UCF. So it was a great question. I'm not sure who asked it, but and I think that's kind of what we've seen from Gus. I mean, he was. I mentioned it to you on Saturday. Gus was in game mode on Saturday morning. He had all his game day tics and nervous habits. But what was your takeaway from Pittman mentioning that he thought Gus had more of an edge in trying to earn the respect of the new coaches he's around and the new players he's charged with leading? And Randy was really smart in how he said it. It's easier to lead when you have somebody's respect.
Yeah, no, I think it speaks to kind of the career revitalization I think Gus is trying to find at Florida State. Whatever he wants the rest of his career to be. I mean, I think we're all fascinated. Does he want to? Did he just want to get out of the UCF situation and want to be a head coach again, or does he want to be a coordinator? Is he a place in his life? I mean, he's coached and coached in and won national titles previously, where he just wants to be a coordinator and be able to kind of focus on football. And I think I asked Thomas Castellanos, I remember earlier in spring, and Tommy talked about kind of, I do see a different, like maybe a bit more like, I think he has the edge in a way. And I think the edge is kind of you're right, he has to kind of prove himself. He has to win guys over. But I think he's also been a bit kind of a weight lifted off his shoulders is what Tommy talked about with, I mean, obviously Tommy played from 3 years ago, so a lot's changed since then. But I think the message from Gus all along has been like, I don't like all the stuff that goes into being a head coach nowadays. And I think being able to take that step back, whether that's a permanent step back, a temporary step back, whatever it may be, I think Gus is really seeing the advantages of it, and I think is enjoying himself more. It seems like maybe it wasn't the most enjoyable time at UCF, especially the last couple of years.
Yeah. William, I'm going to answer your question. If you listen to the second half of our pod, Nick and I talk, do about a 2 or 3 minute segment on Landon Duckworth. He is supposed to visit, but you can listen when we get into it a little bit later. I don't want to ruin it because I don't want to cover it twice. But he is supposed to be visiting. He has not been on campus yet, but all signs point to him not ending up at FSU next December, which is the more important facet of that. And listen, you talk about all the things that Gus does not want to deal with, and we're starting to see the portal opens on the 16th. We're already starting to see guys make leverage plays. It was reported by Pete Thymel this afternoon that Tennessee's quarterback did not show up at practice today. It was an unexcused absence. Nico Imavalia, I can't pronounce his last name, but and listen, his father got a little bit upset with an On3 writer that wrote that Nico was trying to renegotiate his NIL deal during practice, and today he misses practice. So listen, maybe this will be the spring that Josh Pate thought was going to be the Armageddon of the transfer portal. Last spring, he thought it was going to be wild. It was not. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that's what Gus didn't want to deal with, and I think it's what a lot of college football coaches don't want to deal with is the volatility of the portal and NIL and everything that creates. And I think you're going to see. I think you'll see some of the more successful college head coaches dart for the pros, where it's a little bit more organized and free agency. A lot more organized for that matter. And I think you'll see some guys. Listen, you saw Chip Kelly come back to the college game for 1 year and then right back to the pros as a coordinator. So unless college football puts some guardrails on this NIL and portal stuff, you're going to continue to see things like what Nico has done, if that's true. And Pete Thymal usually does not report stuff unless it's substantiated. So that is what Gus is. I think that's what Castellanos was referring when Gus didn't want to deal with the nature of college football today. All right, so we're going to switch from college football to college baseball as Florida State heads to Virginia Tech this weekend and tries to break a 3-game losing streak. Kurt, I don't think 2 weeks ago we would have said on this show thinking that Florida State could lose 3 games, and I think that, as I told you on Wednesday, I think that the casual observer, which I'm quickly not becoming a casual observer of college baseball anymore, wouldn't think that Virginia Tech has much to offer Florida State, but they did sweep a Wake Forest team 3 weeks ago that took 2 out of 3 from Florida State. What is your anticipation, and what do you think about this matchup for Florida State?
I mean, I think whenever you're in a 3-game losing streak, and I mean, the truth is, I would have told you something like this was coming at some point. I mean, there were some concerning things that for a while they were overcoming. I think Link talked this week a little about, there were games where maybe we won some games we shouldn't have won, just based off how we were playing because of a one performance or what have you. The peaks and valleys over a long season are always going to happen. It's just the facts of college baseball life. Now, that you can't deny. I mean, you can't just excuse away what's been a problem of late. And the truth is, I'm not sure you when you're in the spot Florida State's in right now, I don't know if you take anybody lightly or think that anybody. I mean, Virginia Tech's now ranked after they won another series last weekend. I can't remember offhand who against, but I mean, it's their 25th in D1's poll this week. So it's another ranked opponent. I think they're a team that doesn't have a glaring weakness. I think they're not a killer offense. They're not a killer pitching staff. They're not a killer fielding team, but they're very good in all those aspects and have proven to be able to have great pitching games, have great hitting games, can really challenge you on a variety of fronts. And also, I think I can say here, we just found out a bit ago, I was thinking it might go this way. They're not playing tonight because of inclement weather, so it's a doubleheader tomorrow and a game on Sunday. And unfortunately, quite unfortunately, both those Saturday games aren't going to be broadcast on TV. Lulu's going to be the only one. Yes, it's apparently VT's got stuff going on. Like apparently it's their spring game and they got other events and they basically don't have the staffing to like put on a broadcast. But so it was only going to be the one Saturday game, but with 2 games now on Saturday, neither of those are going to be on TV, which is
that's disappointing.
It is.
Well,
it is.
Listen.
But frankly, I think the biggest thing for Florida State side of it, and it's been a problem recently, is how much can you get like lengthwise out of your starters? Your starters were so good early in the year against the lesser teams. You knew the competition was going to be harder, and you thought like there are going to be some bumps in the road. I mean, Jamie had that. Bellini had that last week. Mendez has had a few of those of late. But I think they gave you, probably a combined – I'm not even sure they gave you 12 total innings last week. I don't know offhand, but in that Wake Forest series, I think Jamie went 5 innings. Either of them went more than 4. So I think it was with the state your bullpen's in. Still feels like it's reeling a bit with Evan Crest down, and we now know down for the year. Link said that he thinks whatever decision he makes, Evan Crest is almost certainly done for the year. You need Jamie and Joey and what's now a doubleheader. If they can both give you at least 6, that would go a long way towards kind of shortening how much you need from the bullpen, and you're able to kind of slim down that number of bullpen arms you want to use. Because, a lot of guys have been struggling, but you've got a few who've been going okay. So if they only have to cover six innings in the first 2 games or so, that would be huge.
Yeah, with 3 games in 24 hours, you probably do need at least one really quality start and a good solid, if nothing else, a good solid start from one of those other 2 games. But yeah, because as you said, the bullpen has been where the issue is, and you're almost forced into, you know, you don't want to overuse your bullpen on Saturday, right? I mean, going into Sunday, that would be my thought. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. Listen, as you said, they're not an overpowering team offensively. Virginia Tech only have 3 players hitting over 300. Sam Tackett is their best hitter. He leads them in batting average, 393, hits 44, home runs 10, RBI 33, and total bases 81. Two quality starters, 2 regular starters. Brenton Renfro has a 2.25 ERA, leads the team there. He only averages 5 innings per outing in 8 outings, and then opponents are batting 245 against him. Jake Marciano is the other regular starter. Now he is 4-0. Now his ERA is not near as good, 4.33 in 7 starts, and but teams are only batting 243 against him. So if you want to know who some of the headliners are at Virginia Tech, if you're going to listen on the radio, and doesn't sound like even ESPN Plus is an option for this, those are the names you'll might hear about Virginia Tech, and a 974 fielding average as a team. Kurt, what would you? I mean, I guess it's a rhetorical question. But maybe not coming off a 3-game skid. But what is a winning weekend for Florida State? Taking 2 out of 3? I mean, is it that simple?
I mean, I'm not going to say that winning 1 is a winning weekend, but I think it depends how things play out. So, but yeah, I feel like you have to win the series to consider it a winning weekend. I don't think Link Jarrett would change those standards just because of how they performed recently. I don't think the players would. So I definitely don't think the fan base will. So no, I think it is win the series, which I mean, hey, they won both their first 2 series on the road, but I think VT's a notably better team than Miami or Notre Dame.
So are you going to listen to Llewellyn?
I'll probably follow along. There's like the live stats you can follow along, and then I guess I might listen to Lulu. I think Bob and I have to retalk our plan now of coverage. I think we had a coverage idea. We might have to rework it now with the change. We'll have to talk at football here.
Well, the good news is there's no football to work around tomorrow.
In a way, yes, because I would have been balancing running a baseball thread and like being there for interviews tonight, and so I kind of, in a way, works. But for whoever covers a doubleheader, just a doubleheader can be a long day.
Yeah, that's a very long day.
I'm just talking about me. I'm not even. It is definitely for the players and all them too. But
no, I was talking about for you.
Even for me sitting on the couch running the thread on my computer. I've done a few of them this year.
Yeah, as a player, I think you would love to play 2 in one day. That'd be a great day. I mean, baseball is one of those games you can't play enough. At least when I was young, that's the way I felt about baseball. You could play 2 every day. Now, the pitchers might not have felt that way, but the first baseman and the batters did.
And here's what I hadn't considered, but the unfortunate thing really about a doubleheader that doesn't start till Saturday is Florida State, because of national TV next week, is hosting Virginia, and its series starts on Thursday.
Oh, okay.
So you're asking Jamie Arnold. Jamie Arnold pitch count might be limited if you're asking him to turn around from Saturday to Thursday. That's a short turnaround for him. 2 days
left. Any midweek game next week?
Yes, there is. Well, I think they host USF on Tuesday.
Oh, all right. So it's going to be a busy 7 days for the Seminoles on the baseball diamond.
5 games in a 5-day span?
Yeah.
6-day span?
Yeah. And what, 7 in a 8-day span? Is that right? No. 7 and 7. Yeah, 7 and 8.
7 and 9, I think. But either way, it goes to show.
Yeah, hey, by the way, we did not tell Kurt, and I did not tell myself there would be math today, so we apologize for that. All right, Kurt. Well, listen, man, we appreciate you joining us, and we will see you on Monday to talk about the series and a little bit about what we heard after the Friday practice that the Seminoles were holding as Kurt and I speak. And I will talk to you a little bit later in the weekend, Kurt, and we're going to break for a commercial. Then we're going to come back with Nick and cover a little recruiting. We'll see you in about 51 seconds.
Hey Seminole fans, Alumni Hall is your ultimate FSU shopping experience and has moved to a new location off Timberlane Road in Tallahassee. Shop FSU gear from Nike, Champion, New Era, Yeti, and more. Alumni Hall has Seminole gear for the entire family, plus accessories and gifts. Spend $150 and you'll earn $10 off your next purchase with their Hall Pass rewards. Stop by their new location on Timberlane Road near REI or shop anytime online at alumnihall.com. Alumni Hall, where Seminole fans shop. Finding an experienced lawyer you can trust is crucial. With over 50 years of combined litigation experience, the attorneys at Mowry Law Firm are dedicated to providing our clients with exceptional legal services, focusing on car and trucking accidents, premises liability, and wrongful death. Call 904-824-7799, MowryLaw.com.
Oh, and welcome back to the second half of the Osceola Seminole Sidelines for Friday, April 11th. I'm now joined by Nick Carlisle as we go through some recruiting nuggets. Nick, how is everything going?
It's going great, Pat. It's going great. It's been good. It's been good. Happy to see all these kids getting on campus, and Florida State added a bit to its 2026 class, which we'll get into. So the Noles are looking good right now.
Yeah, listen, they got some good news on the recruiting front yesterday. They got the commitment of Sean Johnson, a 3-star safety / corner, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. From Maryland, from the DMV, as everybody likes to call it. But he became the 9th player to commit to Florida State in this for this recruiting cycle so far. So, listen, we've already got some disagreement internally within the Osceola family. But let's talk a little bit about Sean Johnson. We've both watched his film. You and I like him as a safety. Fish likes him as a corner. I don't think he's got enough speed to play corner at the major college level, although he is long and athletic, like Florida State likes defensive back, 6'2", 195. But to me, Nick, he's got safety written all over him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you see on the film is he's got good instincts. He's not afraid to go up and hit. Doesn't give up on plays. There was one play in his film where he came back across the field to tackle a guy from behind from the other boundary hash. So got really nice high motor, good instincts, is not afraid to hit. But when you look at when he's in man coverage, I kind of question his ability to stay with the receiver out of the break. If you notice, he'll like tuck his heels in and almost lean back when he's closer up to the receiver, almost like he knows the receiver's going to get by him. So I question the speed there, as you say. I think he's by far and away a safety in Tony White's scheme, but this is by no means a poor pickup. I think you see the size and athleticism, and just he's a football player, and that's what Tony White and Evan Cooper are looking for. Obviously, Evan Cooper spearheading this recruitment here. They're looking for football players, and I think Sean Johnson definitely fits that mold.
Yeah, listen, I do think he's got some potential. I think that he is. If you watch his huddle highlights, and listen, it's not like you get to watch 10 or 15 minutes. It's about a 5-minute huddle highlight package that he has for his entire junior year. But I do think he's, you watch him sometimes get beat to the perimeter. And so that's when I question his straight line speed and think that this is probably more of a safety fit for Florida State. Now he's got a ways to go, in my opinion, as a tackler. Now, he's not afraid to be physical. You do see some of that. But yeah, I think he's a guy that's more made to cover the middle of the field as opposed to a lockdown corner. But listen, they've seen more tape on him, and we'll see what happens once he gets here. But yes, got the 9th commitment. And as a kid that they have had on campus before he got their commitment, and obviously that went well. But yes, I think he's a safety. You think he's a safety. Fish thinks he's a corner, and in about 3 or 4 years, we'll know the answer to that, Nick. Because he's, I don't know. We've seen some young defensive backs come into play at Florida State in the recent past. But yeah, I think it's a good pickup. I do agree with you. He's long. He's athletic. He's got some ability. He's not afraid to tackle. Just needs to work on technique. And what most DBs do is they leave their feet, they dive at people and lunge at people, and he just needs to run through the tackle. And we heard Mike talk about that yesterday after his practice about his own team. They need to, run their feet through the tackle and all that. But yeah, so good pickup for Florida State, and like I said, 9th commitment, and we'll see where he ends up. But obviously, we've already had an internal debate about that, and we'll see where it sets. All right, so we always talk about quarterbacks, Nick, and of course the quarterback that everyone has on FSU's radar, at least we've talked about it on the Osceola, is Landon Duckworth. One of the reasons we talk about it a lot is because Fish keeps on telling us that Florida State needs to sign him, has to figure out a way to sign him. And it looks like, as we talked about Wednesday, that just keeps getting harder to do. There's multiple in our organization. Sam Spiegelman has put out a future cast. I think it was yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, Nick, but it's been in the last couple of days. Sam Spiegelman's got him future casted to Ole Miss. Another recruiting service has him future casted to Ole Miss. And listen, I think he's an SEC guy. I think he's going to an SEC program one way or the other, whether that's Georgia, South Carolina, or Ole Miss. I know Fish ranked the commitments earlier today, and he doubled down on the fact that they have to get Duckworth, and I just don't think it's going to happen. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm a little bit pessimistic too. My main concern here is that your options are really, really drying out right now, and it doesn't seem like Florida State is taking action to kind of refresh the pool, so to speak. I mean, obviously, Bo Bentley, Florida State's out of it, and that one for now. Duckworth seems to be heavily leaning towards Ole Miss. He's been on Ole Miss's campus twice, whereas Florida State he hasn't visited once at all. And then you got guys that are even further, like way further down the board, like a Jaron Cooley, who committing to West Virginia. I'm not really sure what they're doing at the quarterback position right now. I agree with Fish in the sense that if you're going to land an elite quarterback this cycle, Duckworth is that elite quarterback. So you can put all your eggs in one basket, but I don't think that they're doing enough to refresh the pond in terms of quarterback prospects. They had Travis Burgess on campus last week or a week and a half ago, and I took the time to go back and watch his tape, and I don't know why they didn't offer him. I don't know why you're bringing him on campus if you're not going to offer him. And I understand that you want to take your time, and I know that Mike and Tony like to see guys throw in person, but he's tall, he's lengthy, he can really get down the field, long strides, and I feel like that would be a good fit for a Gus Malzahn offense when you watch his film. I just have concerns that and the thought came across to me. We've heard Kevin Sperry's name a lot in spring practice, and I don't know if maybe they're so excited with what they've seen from Sperry that maybe they don't feel as I guess they don't feel the heat as much to go and get a quarterback this cycle if they like what they've seen from Sperry that much. I don't know if that's even remotely an option, but that's something that crossed my mind. I have my concerns about the quarterback recruiting right now for sure.
Yeah, well, listen, we've talked about it, and we'll continue to talk about it. I think that some of the success of who they get as a quarterback is going to be predicated by what kind of season they have. Can they get this turned around in a big way, meaning not just getting to 6-6, but get to 8-4 and show some real improvement in the direction of this program. And here's the other reason I'm not particularly worried about it, and we'll see how this plays out. But as we've gotten through 11 practices of spring and everything we saw and heard of Kevin Sperry, and you go back and watch his high school tape where we called him a poor man's Baker Mayfield, that was kind of our comparison. And now, listen, he's a much better he's probably a little bit more fluid of an athlete than Baker. He's got a little bit more swivel in his hips. But listen, no one knew what Florida State was going to do at quarterback after they lost the commitment of the kid that ended up at Florida. All right, so that was November. And I think right now I'm more excited about the fact that Kevin Sperry is on with this team than I would have been if the other kid, and I'm sorry I cannot remember that kid's name from Jacksonville. But anyway, I'm more comfortable with Sperry as the 2025 quarterback signee than I would if they'd been signed the other kid that ended up at
Mel
Florida.
Jones. It was escaping my mind for a second too. That's how fast recruiting moves sometimes, ladies and gentlemen. You got to dump and add names at will.
That's too many names in my head right now. So anyway, I think I'm not particularly worried about it, because I do think if Florida State does have a good season, they can circle back to somebody, maybe even Duckworth, maybe even Bo Bentley. And listen, I don't think Keyshawn Henderson's going anywhere but Houston. I think that's a done deal. And listen, and they could work their way back to somebody. But the thing, I do think that the strength of this recruiting class will ultimately be determined by the strength of Florida State's 2025 season. So we'll see how that goes.
And I think another thing to kind of add to your point, because to some degree I do agree with you, the fact that I think the offensive recruiting in particular will be a lot better once prospects actually get to see what this offense is like in action, live reps. Because the defense is getting to see it, and you have a little bit more of film to understand what Tony wants to do. They're doing I know with the defensive prospects that I'm talking to and how many defensive commitments that they're getting, there's more comfortability in what that defense is going to look like. Whereas with Gus's offense, it seems we kind of have stereotypes and ideas of what that's going to look like, but what that actually looks like and what that means in terms of touches and production and how things are going to work, what they're looking for, that's a little bit lesser known. And I think that once prospects actually, this is where like a spring game would have been actually beneficial, I think, to have. Once prospects get to see how they fit into that, I think it's going to be easier for them to get in on some quarterbacks, some more wide receivers. Obviously, wide receiver recruiting's ticked up a little bit, but I think that to kind of add on to your point, I think once prospects get to see that, and fingers crossed for Florida State, see that it works,
right.
that'll end up helping.
All right. Well, I agree with you, and we'll see how it plays out. And listen, this is a new age in recruiting with NIL and all that. Listen. Pay for plays here, and we'll see what happens.
Carson Baker, I felt real good about Carson Baker last week. And now I feel really good about Ohio State for him. So it happens quickly. It happens quickly.
It does. All right, so we're coming off a Thursday practice. It was kind of a light day for recruits, Nick. Not a ton of recruits out there at Thursday's practice, but who was there, and who'd you talk to, and what was your takeaway from that conversation?
The real big 2026 on campus was I think it's Waukee. It's Waukee, Iowa high school tight end Evan Jacobson, who this is his first time back on campus since he was offered last summer. I don't know what it is about Coach Chris Thompson, CT, and him recruiting Midwestern tight ends and what makes him so special at it, but he just seems to keep going out there and finding and building relationships with tight ends. Coming out of the conversation that I had with him, I feel pretty good about where Florida State is. I think, again, Chris Thompson's ability to go and make relationships in that area is really beneficial. We talked about Chase Lofton in the interview. Very similar body type to Evan Jacobson. They are aware of each other. They were 2 hours away from each other from Waukee to Omaha. So I think in terms of, where Florida State's tight end board is, I wouldn't be surprised if he's closer to the top. Now, he, again, with mentioning Chase, they do already kind of have a body type like that in the room right now. And I would think that they want to go for at least one more blocking tight end, like a Heze Kent, so to speak. But this is, I think, especially with Auburn and Notre Dame being Jacobson's other official visit destinations, he's not afraid to leave home. I think Florida State has a good shot in this one, depending where he is on the board. So I think it was a very beneficial visit.
All right. Well, we have him listed as 6'7", 220. When you saw his frame, particularly his shoulders, does he look like he has a guy that would become a 6'7", 270-pound tight end that can do both things? I mean,
no. A 50-pound weight gain? I don't think so. I think we're looking at maybe 240. I think he said his official, because he actually got asked. I think he was officially 6'6", 220. Okay. So he's gotten shorter since we last saw him. But I don't know if he's going to be able to put on that level of mass. I think he could get to probably 240, maybe 245 comfortably. But yeah, it really kind of it's a lot of questions in the tight end room, Pat. Especially who's to say that they don't add a body in the transfer portal and that changes everything, right? In terms of what they're looking for. So
yeah, because you got 4 coming on campus for official visits right now, and one of those is Julius Miles, who's built similarly at 6'7", 210. So let's call him 6'6", 200.
Yeah, and he's even skinnier than Jacobson is. Not to say that Jacobson was skinny by any means, but like Miles is probably even more of a Jordan Scott like wide receiver type body. So I don't know if I would even consider him a tight end, to be honest with you. I think he's probably more of a big wide receiver. But the lines are so blurry there nowadays, especially with the type of receivers that Mike likes. So. But yeah, it just really depends on kind of, I think a lot of how the tight end board is going to shape up over the next few months depends on A, if they can grab somebody in the portal, and B, just kind of how with summer conditioning, kind of these bodies get built more into.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting how it plays out and how the season plays out and how that affects this recruiting class. But all right, so let's kind of just quickly go through this. This is more for fun than it is anything else. Florida State does have 9 commitments. And Fish wrote an article on the board. So if you go to theosceola.com, Fish has written an article called Ranking the Commitments Class of 2026. And you do have to be a subscriber to get to that information. So join the Osceola if you're not a subscriber to get there. All right, so he's got the recruits ranked in order of, I guess, importance or impact. But how he has ranked this class, he has Amari Thomas as the number 1 recruit in this class so far of 9. Then wide receiver Darion Williams, linebacker Kayron Mayock, number 3. Number 4, offensive tackle Xavier Payne. Number 5, safety Darrell Bell. Number 6, defensive back Tadarius Hughes. Number 7, defensive back Sean Johnson. And number 8, Michael Ionata, offensive tackle. Then number 9, Ephraim White, who's an athlete who Fish has listed as a receiver, although he could end up at DB. And who knows with Gus, maybe ends up at quarterback, which is what he plays in high school. All right, so Nick, what do you have? Would you have Amari at number 1 if this was your list? Or let me ask you a question: who would be number 1 on your list?
I think Karan Maycock would be number 1 for me. I'm not entirely sure whether or not if this was primarily on pure skill or is it skill versus need, basically, like who is needed more. I think
Maycock.
If it's by need, Maycock is by far and away number 1. I'm a huge fan of the kid. I think he's really, really athletic. Obviously, he played a little bit of safety as well. The light bulb is turning on when you imagine this kid and how Tony White can use him, whether that's at the jack, whether that's just an inside or outside linebacker. Like the amount of options that this dude provides you with defensively, the amount of positions that he can play, the amount of areas that you can move him around, knife to butter. I think he's by far and away your most important recruit. No knock on Amari Thomas, who obviously he's got great film. He's extremely productive, but and even Fish would agree with this. We're not worried about the running back room at Florida State. Not right now, anyways. Especially with Ousmane Kroma getting here in the summer, that room is going to get even more stacked.
Yeah.
So,
I'm with you. I would now, and listen, we're talking about 9 players who we are thinking, if they're signing with FSU, we think they're going to have an impact on the program. So it's not a negative that neither one of us would rank Amari number 1. I would go with Darion Williams number 1. Then I would go with Maycock. I think that FSU needs a game-changing receiver. They have not recruited one. They brought him in from the portal, but they need a kid that can come in here and play for 3 or 4 years and be a dominating player. And listen, Fish thinks he's the best overall athlete in this class so far with 9. So I'm going with Darion, followed by Maycock. And then probably, if I had to say the one guy that I think is too high on his rankings would be Xavier Payne, who he has at 4. I would not have. I would have Tadarius Hughes in front of him. I'd have to watch more film on Bell. So he had those two guys, but Payne and Bell 4 and 5. But I would have. I would slide probably Payne back to 7 or 8 on my list.
Yeah, I think the thing that's really attractive about Payne is just the amount that his body, he's 6'7", 320 pounds. Florida State has had a real trouble of finding tackles that are big and tall like that. But having watched him at the Rivals camp, the speed, and Fish alludes to this in his write-up, is that speed rushers, of which there were plenty at that Rivals camp a few weeks ago, they can present some problems for him. Now it takes a second for them to get around him, but you could definitely see that maybe his future is more inside than at tackle.
Oh, I definitely think that. Yes,
I think that he's an enticing prospect. He's certainly got the body that you're looking for, but you need to see more polish there. Of course, we're talking about polish in high school athletes, but nonetheless.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he ends up inside. I'm kind of leaning that way to I, not a 2, who they're both big, large human beings, but I think both of them just their. I think they could struggle against elite defensive ends at tackle and pass protection, where maybe their lateral movement's not as good as it can be. Not saying they won't get better. Sometimes we've talked about this before. Sometimes it takes time for kids to grow, those big kids to grow into their body and learn how to function at peak efficiency, I guess, for lack of a better term. But it does, those kids are big. They're not quite grown. They're not as strong as they're going to be. They're not as coordinated as they're going to be when they're younger. So both those kids could end up at tackle, but I've got them at guard right now.
Yeah. And you take both of them too, because let's not remember the bigger picture here, or not forget the bigger picture. Rather, is that Florida State's going to need to sign 8 or 9 high school or just offensive linemen in general. You're losing so much production on the offensive line that you take these kids, you take as many offensive linemen as you can, see how they work out. To replace that production over time. So even though obviously we're a little bit, I don't want to say skeptical, but obviously where they are and how they end up, we're not so sure. But that still doesn't mean that they're any less of a take than they are.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see where what happens, and of course we're 5 days away from the opening of the portal for the spring period. It opens on April 16th.
One more time, right?
We'll see if the needs for Florida State change, if they add anybody, subtract anybody. We have them over the 105 right now, so it would be hard to add unless you subtract. So are they going to have some kids leave expectedly or unexpectedly? We'll see here in a couple of days, but there's no rumors of that right now. The only guy I could see possibly leaving, I think it's a non-factor because he hasn't played, but Trevor Jackson did not take a snap in the scrimmage we saw last Saturday. So will Trevor Jackson leave the program to try to go somewhere where he can compete for more playing time? But again, that's a non-factor because he hasn't done anything at FSU. But if you had to say, hey, there's going to be one guy, it might be him because we have not heard Gus reference him in either of the scrimmages after either scrimmages, and we didn't see him in the second scrimmage. So we'll see what happens there. All right, Nick. Well, you'll have the latest on Fridays, what happens at Friday's practice on Monday. So we appreciate you joining us for a little recruiting segment, and hope you have a great weekend, and we will see you on Monday, buddy.
Yeah, I'll see you on Monday. Thank you for watching, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Nick. All right. Well, that was our recruiting segment for today, and we will be back on Monday to talk with Bob and Kurt about football practice on Friday. And as you missed earlier in the show, it is going to be a shorter, full padded practice, a lot of goal line and red zone, and a practice that Mike said that he hopes the players will remember. So it sounds like it's going to be a tough one, which is good. They're needed in the spring, and it's the best time to have these goal line type situations. Nick will be back on Monday to talk about what he saw from recruits and what they said about their visit on Friday. Our understanding this is going to be a very light day from a recruit standpoint on campus. There are a lot of spring games this weekend throughout the Southeast, and I think that is one of the reasons that Florida State probably went to a Friday practice, besides trying to get back-to-back practices in, which are a little bit more physically tough. So we'll be back on Monday. If you're not a subscriber to the Osceola YouTube channel, we'd ask that you please hit the subscribe button before you log off today, and also hit the notification button, which will allow you to be alerted when we're going to do a show live or taped. Also, if you want to get our post-practice reports and read everything that Mike had to say, please go to theosceola.com for our post-practice Thursday reports and our post-practice Friday reports. Those will be up in a matter of hours. The team will probably be off the practice field by about 4:30 today, so those our post-practice reports will be up by 5:30 or 6. But if you're not a subscriber to the Osceola, please check us out. We've got plenty of free content in front of the paywall, but to get everything, including the message boards, you do have to join the Osceola, and we hope you will do that. My name is Pat Burnham. We hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy the baseball. If you're going to listen to it with Eric Llewellyn, as Kurt told us, neither of the 3 games are going to be televised, and Florida State will play a doubleheader on Saturday, followed by a rubber match on Sunday. There is no game today at Virginia Tech due to inclement weather, so they will play 2 tomorrow. Need a quality start or 2 out of their 3 starters this weekend. But we'll be back. We appreciate you watching Seminole Sidelines, and we'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.